"Pick anything you want," he said, until his daughters said, "We want that Apache woman as our mother." The sun was just beginning to rise over the small town, casting a warm, golden light over the quiet streets. Birds chirped softly, and the faint smell of freshly baked bread floated from the corner bakery. In a little house at the end of Maple Street, Thomas Bennett was already awake. Life had changed for him in ways he never expected. A year ago, he had been a husband, a father, and a man with a simple, happy life. But everything changed when his wife passed away suddenly. She had been the heart of the home, the one who made everything feel warm and safe. Now, Thomas was left with his two young daughters, Emma and Lily, and the weight of trying to fill a home that felt emptier every day. Thomas was not a man who complained, but sometimes, when he sat in the quiet of the living room, he could feel the loneliness pressing in. He loved his daughters more than anything in the world, but raising them alone was harder than he had imagined. The mornings were the toughest. He would wake them up for school, prepare breakfast, pack lunches, and make sure their clothes were clean and neat. There were mornings when he felt like he was juggling 100 things at once, and yet he never let his daughters see his frustration. Emma, the older of the two, was 10, and Lily was 8. Both girls were bright, cheerful, and full of energy, but the sadness of losing their mother lingered in their eyes, and Thomas could see it every day. On this particular morning, Thomas had decided they needed a break. He wanted to do something special, something that would bring smiles back to their faces. "Girls," he said as he poured orange juice into their glasses, "how about we go into town today? There's a small fair at the park. We can walk around, see the animals, maybe even try some of the games." Emma and Lily's eyes lit up. The mention of a fair always excited them, but today it seemed to bring a spark of hope. "Yes, Daddy, can we go see the ponies?" Lily asked, bouncing in her seat. Emma nodded eagerly, her braided hair swinging as she moved. Thomas smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest that had been missing for far too long. "Of course," he said. "We'll see everything you want, and maybe we'll even find a treat or two." The fair was not far, just a short walk down the tree-lined streets, but for Thomas and his daughters, it felt like stepping into a world of magic. There were colorful tents, the smell of popcorn and cotton candy, and children running everywhere, their laughter filling the air. Thomas held Lily's hand while Emma skipped ahead a little, taking in everything with wide eyes. The girls were thrilled by the simple joy of being there, and Thomas felt a sense of peace. For a few hours, it was as if the sadness that had followed them all these months had lifted. As they wandered through the fair, they came across a small craft stall. The table was covered with handmade jewelry, colorful scarves, and intricate pottery. Behind the table stood a woman, tall and graceful, with long dark hair braided neatly over her shoulder. She wore a simple dress, but there was something about her presence that made her seem remarkable. Her eyes were kind, yet strong, and there was a quiet confidence in the way she moved. Thomas felt a sudden awareness of her, but he quickly turned his attention back to his daughters, not wanting to appear forward. Emma and Lily, however, were drawn to the woman instantly. "Daddy, look at her," Emma whispered, tugging at his sleeve. "She's amazing." Lily nodded in agreement, her eyes wide. The woman smiled at them, and in that smile there was a warmth that felt almost magical. She knelt down to talk to them, asking their names, and for the first time in months, Thomas heard laughter from his daughters that was full and genuine. The woman had a way of making them feel seen and special, as if their sadness didn't exist at all. Thomas watched silently, feeling a mixture of admiration and hesitation. He did not know this woman, and yet there was something about her that stirred a feeling he had not allowed himself to feel in a long time: hope. The girls, oblivious to their father's thoughts, chattered happily with her, showing her their sketches, telling her stories about school, and asking endless questions. She listened patiently, laughing softly, and offering kind words that seemed to make their little hearts swell with happiness. After a while, Thomas approached her. "Hi," he said, keeping his voice calm even though his heart was racing. "I'm Thomas. These are my daughters, Emma and Lily." The woman stood and extended her hand. "It's very nice to meet you," she said. "I'm Ayanna." There was a softness in her voice, but also a quiet strength that made Thomas feel at ease. They exchanged small talk, and Thomas learned that Ayanna was in town for a short time, selling her crafts and sharing stories from her community. She spoke with a gentle pride about her heritage and the importance of family, respect, and kindness. As the day went on, the girls insisted on staying close to Ayanna. They held her hand as they wandered through the fair, introduced her to their favorite rides, and even shared their cotton candy with her. Thomas observed this with a mixture of amazement and unease. He had seen the sadness in his daughter's eyes, the longing for something they had lost, and now he saw how quickly they had connected with this stranger. It was as if she had stepped into their lives and brought a piece of their mother's warmth with her. By late afternoon, the fair began to quiet down and Thomas knew it was time to head home. "All right, girls," he said, "let's start making our way back." Emma and Lily looked at him with hesitant faces. "Do we have to go?" Emma asked softly. Thomas knelt to their level. "We can't stay all day, but we can come back another time, okay?" Lily nodded, but her eyes lingered on Ayanna. Thomas could see the longing there, the admiration, and even the trust that his daughters had placed in her so quickly. As they walked home, Thomas couldn't stop thinking about the day. The fair had been fun, but the most remarkable part was the connection between his daughters and Ayanna. He remembered how Lily had said she wanted to show her favorite storybook, how Emma had laughed at Ayanna's gentle teasing, and how both girls had followed her every move with wide, trusting eyes. For the first time in months, Thomas felt a spark of hope that perhaps his family could feel whole again. That evening, after dinner, Thomas sat in the living room with his daughters. They were tired from the day but still chattering about everything they had seen. "Daddy," Lily said suddenly, her voice serious, "can Ayanna come visit us again?" Emma nodded eagerly. Thomas hesitated, unsure how to respond. He wanted to say yes, but he also knew that they had only just met her. He didn't want to rush anything. "We'll see," he said carefully. "Maybe another day soon." Emma and Lily smiled, satisfied for the moment, but Thomas knew their excitement was different from the normal happiness children felt. This was deeper. This was a bond forming almost instantly, and it made him both hopeful and nervous. He realized that something remarkable had happened today, something that could change all of their lives if handled with care. That night, as Thomas lay in bed after putting the girls to sleep, he thought about Ayanna. He thought about her smile, her kindness, and the way his daughters had responded to her presence. Could someone really bring that much light into a family? Could this woman, whom he barely knew, truly become a part of their lives? He didn't have answers yet, but one thing was certain. Today had planted a seed, one that could grow into something beautiful if nurtured with patience and care. The quiet of the night felt different now. There was a sense of possibility, a sense that life could surprise him in ways he had never imagined. He closed his eyes, thinking of Emma and Lily's laughter, and felt a small but powerful hope rise in his chest. Perhaps the world still had joy to offer, even in the midst of loss. Perhaps, just perhaps, the next chapter of their lives would bring someone extraordinary into their hearts. The next morning, Thomas woke up with the memory of yesterday fresh in his mind. The laughter of his daughters and the warmth of Ayanna's smile had stayed with him all night. He had never expected a stranger to touch their lives so quickly, yet somehow she had. Breakfast was quiet at first, just the usual clinking of spoons and cereal bowls, but soon Emma and Lily's excitement broke through. "Daddy," Emma began, her eyes sparkling, "can we see Ayanna again today?" Lily nodded vigorously, almost bouncing in her chair. Thomas paused for a moment. He wanted to say yes, but he also knew that he couldn't simply invite someone into their lives without thinking. Gianna was a grown woman with her own life, her own path. He wasn't sure if she wanted to be involved beyond the fair. Yet seeing the hope and joy in his daughter's eyes made him hesitate to deny them. "Maybe," Thomas said carefully, "we can call her and ask if she's free. But we have to be polite and she might have her own things to do." Both girls squealed in excitement, running to get their coats and shoes, ready to go see Ayanna. Thomas smiled quietly, feeling both nervous and excited. This was a step into something new, something he didn't fully understand yet. When they arrived at the small craft stall again, Thomas noticed that Ayanna was arranging her handmade jewelry with precision. She looked up and smiled when she saw them approaching. "Hello again," she said warmly. "It's nice to see you all." The girls ran to her, Emma holding out a small drawing she had made of their visit to the fair, and Lily showing a flower she had picked for her. Gianna knelt down, accepting their gifts with gentle delight. "They're beautiful," Gianna said, her voice calm but full of kindness. "You've both put so much care into these. I can see your hearts in them." Thomas watched quietly, noticing the way his daughters' faces lit up. They adored her and the feeling was mutual. Gianna had a natural way of connecting with children, of seeing them for who they truly were, not just their smiles or politeness, but the little sparks of their personalities and emotions. After a while, Thomas suggested they take a walk through the park. The girls held Ayanna's hands as they moved along the tree-lined paths, pointing out birds, flowers, and squirrels along the way. Thomas walked a few steps behind them, listening to their chatter. "Do you think she likes us?" Lily asked suddenly, glancing at him with wide eyes. Thomas knelt to meet her gaze. "I think she does," he said softly. "She seems very kind and she enjoys spending time with us." Emma nodded, her face serious. "I hope she comes back to visit often," she said. At that moment, Ayanna joined in, crouching down to their level. "I like spending time with you too," she said. "It's been a wonderful day so far. I think we make a good team, don't you?" The girls giggled, feeling proud and happy. Thomas felt a warmth in his chest that he hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time since his wife passed away, he felt that maybe life could be full of small, meaningful connections again. Later that afternoon, Thomas decided to take the girls for ice cream. They sat on a bench near the fountain, enjoying their cones as the water sparkled in the sunlight. Emma leaned toward her father, her voice soft but determined. "Daddy, can we ask her something?" Thomas looked at her, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "Of course, what is it?" Emma hesitated for a moment, then blurted out. "We want Ayanna to be our mother." Thomas froze, his spoon paused midair. The words hung in the warm afternoon air, and for a moment he didn't know how to respond. Lily nodded enthusiastically beside her sister, her little face full of hope. Thomas felt a mixture of surprise, awe, and uncertainty. His daughters, so young and full of innocence, had expressed something so profound and unexpected. Gianna, who had been quietly listening, looked at the girls with gentle surprise. She didn't laugh or dismiss their words. Instead, she took a deep breath, her eyes softening. "That's very sweet of you to say," she said carefully. "I'm honored that you feel that way about me. But it's important to understand that families are not just about saying words. They are about love, trust, and being together through good times and bad." Thomas swallowed hard. He admired how calmly she handled the situation, respecting his daughter's feelings without encouraging them too quickly. "Girls," he said gently, "this is a big thing. Ayanna is a wonderful person, but becoming part of our family is not something that happens instantly. It takes time, care, and understanding." The girls looked at him with serious expressions, but the spark in their eyes showed they were listening. Over the next few weeks, Thomas found himself thinking about Ayanna constantly. He realized that his daughter's words were not just childish wishes. They had seen something in her that he himself could not ignore: the kindness, the patience, the gentle strength that made her different from anyone he had ever known. He began to notice the little ways she made his daughters laugh, how she encouraged them to try new things, and how she treated them as important individuals with feelings and ideas that mattered. Thomas also reflected on his own feelings. He had been hesitant to open his heart since his wife's passing. Fear of loss, fear of change, and fear of hurting his daughters had kept him from considering the possibility of love again. But Ayanna was different. She was not just a presence. She was a person who inspired trust and care. He found himself hoping she would visit more often, hoping for moments when they could talk quietly while the girls played. The girls, meanwhile, did everything they could to show Ayanna how much they cared. They made small gifts, drew pictures, and asked endless questions about her life, her family, and her culture. They wanted to learn everything about her, as if by knowing her better, they could make her feel like part of their family already. Ayanna responded with patience, telling stories, explaining traditions, and even showing them how to make simple crafts from her community. Each visit strengthened the bond between them. One afternoon, as they all sat together in the park, Lily asked, "Ayanna, do you think you could be our mother someday?" She looked at her father, then back at Ayanna. Thomas felt his heart tighten. He could see the earnest hope in his daughters' faces, a hope that demanded honesty and care. Ayanna smiled softly. "I think you are very sweet," she said. "But becoming a family is more than saying words. It's about trust, time, and understanding each other. We will see how our friendship grows first, and maybe, one day, we will talk about bigger things." Thomas nodded, feeling relief at her careful words. He realized that this was a journey, not a decision to be made in a single afternoon. He also realized how much his daughters had already impacted Ayanna's life. She had shown that she cared, that she was willing to invest time and love into a bond that could grow naturally. It was rare to see such sincerity in people, and Thomas felt grateful that his daughters had instinctively recognized it. As the days turned into weeks, Ayanna's visits became more frequent. She came to watch them play in the park, helped with small homework tasks, and even cooked simple meals with them. The girls' laughter filled the house when she was around, and Thomas found himself smiling more often. He began to notice the little ways she fit into their lives without forcing anything. She respected their routines, their needs, and their space, and yet she brought warmth and care that made their home feel fuller. One evening, after a day spent exploring the nearby woods, the girls sat by the fireplace, showing Ayanna their sketches of trees, birds, and flowers they had seen. "You are our favorite person," Emma said suddenly, her voice full of honesty. Lily nodded in agreement. Thomas watched quietly, feeling tears well up in his eyes. He realized that this was more than friendship. It was the beginning of something rare, something precious. Ayanna looked at the girls with gentle emotion. "I am very lucky to know both of you," she said softly. "You have hearts full of love and curiosity. I am proud of you, and I hope that as we spend more time together, we can continue to learn from each other." The girls hugged her tightly, and Thomas felt a deep sense of hope. Perhaps the future was not as uncertain as he had feared. Perhaps love, in its quiet and patient way, could find its place in their lives once more. And so, the days went on, each one strengthening the bond between the girls and Ayanna. They shared laughter, small adventures, and quiet moments of trust. Thomas watched it all unfold, realizing that the seed his daughters had planted with their innocent wish was beginning to grow. It was a seed of hope, love, and the possibility of a family shaped not just by blood, but by care, respect, and the joy of being together. The following weeks became a rhythm that Thomas never expected but quietly cherished. Ayanna's presence had begun to feel like sunlight filtering through the curtains of their little home, gentle, steady, and warm. Each visit, each shared meal, and each walk through the park added layers of trust and familiarity. Thomas could see how his daughters thrived around her. Emma laughed more freely, Lily seemed calmer, and even Thomas himself felt lighter. Yet with all the joy, there was a whisper of fear inside him, fear of attachment, of change, and of the unknown. One Saturday morning, Thomas suggested a family outing to the riverside, a place where the girls loved to watch the ducks and explore the small trails along the water. Yana agreed to join them, smiling as she packed a small picnic with sandwiches, fruits, and lemonade. "You girls are lucky," she said gently. "I enjoy spending time with you, but your father works very hard for you every day. Don't forget to tell him that." The girls hugged her instantly, their small arms full of affection, and Thomas felt a quiet pride. He had not realized how much they noticed his efforts. As they walked along the riverbank, Emma and Lily skipped ahead, giggling and pointing out squirrels and bright flowers. Gianna walked with Thomas, talking quietly about life, traditions, and the importance of family. Thomas listened, struck by the way her words flowed naturally, like she was sharing wisdom without preaching. She had a calm strength that made him feel safe and understood. For the first time in months, he found himself opening up about his fears, about raising his daughters alone, and about the loneliness that had followed him since his wife passed away. "You're doing better than you think," Yana said softly. "Your daughters are happy, loved, and confident. That's because of you, Thomas. You might not see it, but they do. And I can see it too." Her words were simple, but they carried weight. Thomas felt a warmth in his chest that made his heart ache in the best possible way. He realized that her presence did more than bring joy to his daughters. It brought a sense of validation, of hope, to him as well. The afternoon passed in easy conversation, laughter, and small adventures. They watched as the girls tried to balance on a fallen log over the river, their arms flailing and faces glowing with excitement. Thomas and Ayana cheered them on, and when Lily lost her balance and fell into the shallow water, Ayana was the first to scoop her up with quick, careful hands. Thomas felt a surge of gratitude. Here was someone who could care for his daughters as if they were her own, and he could see that they trusted her completely. Later, as they sat down for their picnic, Emma leaned toward Thomas with a mischievous smile. "Daddy," she said softly, "we really want Ayana to be our mother. Don't you want that too?" Thomas paused, thinking carefully. He loved Ayana, there was no doubt about it. But the idea of blending their lives, of opening his heart fully again, was both exhilarating and terrifying. He knew that rushing this could be a mistake, but ignoring the feelings in his heart felt impossible. Yana, who had been quietly sipping her lemonade, looked at him with gentle eyes. "Thomas," she said softly, "I care about all three of you very much, but becoming a family is a big step. It's not just about love or friendship, it's about understanding, patience, and commitment. We can take our time and see how things grow naturally. That way, when we are ready, it will be real, not forced." Thomas nodded, feeling both relief and admiration. Her words were careful, yet full of honesty. It was exactly what he needed, to know that the path forward could be taken slowly, thoughtfully, and with respect for everyone's feelings. He realized that this patience was part of what made her extraordinary. She wasn't rushing into their lives. She was choosing to understand them, to respect their pace, and to let trust grow organically. Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened in subtle ways. Yana began helping Thomas with little things at home, teaching the girls how to make simple meals, showing them crafts from her culture, and even helping with homework. Each task was approached with patience and care, never condescending, always encouraging. Thomas watched his daughters bloom under her guidance. Emma had begun drawing more confidently, inspired by Yana's stories of nature and tradition, while Lily's shyness had started to fade, replaced by a quiet confidence that surprised even Thomas. One evening, as they all sat together after dinner, Yana shared a story about her childhood. She spoke of her community, the values she had been taught, and the importance of family bonds. The girls listened with rapt attention, their eyes wide and faces glowing. Family is not always about who is related by blood, she said gently. It's about who loves you, protects you, and helps you grow. It's about trust, respect, and sharing life together. Thomas felt a lump in his throat. She was speaking directly to his daughters, and indirectly to him, about the kind of life he wanted to create. A family built on love and understanding, not just tradition or obligation. The days turned into weeks, and Thomas found himself noticing Ayanna in ways he hadn't before. Her laughter, her gentle guidance, and the calm confidence with which she moved through the world had begun to leave a mark on his heart. He realized that he was not just grateful for her presence. He was drawn to her, not just as a friend, but as someone he could imagine sharing his life with. Yet, he knew that love required more than admiration. It required courage. Courage to take risks, to open up fully, and to trust in something new. One afternoon, Thomas invited Ayanna to help plan a small celebration for the girls' birthdays, which were just a few weeks apart. Together, they organized decorations, baked cakes, and even created small handmade gifts for the girls. The day of the celebration, the house was filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of freshly baked treats. Emma and Lily were ecstatic, and Thomas watched as they beamed with happiness. The sight of his daughters so full of joy and love, with Ayanna at their side, made him realize that she had already become an integral part of their lives. Yet, even with all this happiness, Thomas felt the weight of his own fears. Could he really trust himself to open his heart again? Could he allow someone new into a life that had been so deeply altered by loss? Could Ayanna truly fit into their small world? These questions lingered in his mind, but each time he saw the girls laughing, hugging Ayanna, or simply sitting quietly in her presence, he felt the answer becoming clearer. Love, in its quiet and patient way, was already unfolding around him. Then came a quiet evening when Thomas and Ayanna stayed behind in the living room after the girls had gone to bed. They sat side by side on the couch, a comfortable silence stretching between them. Thomas finally found the courage to speak. "Ayanna," he began, his voice soft, "I need to be honest. I've never felt this way about anyone since my wife passed. I've been afraid of losing someone I care about, afraid of making a mistake. But I can't deny what I feel anymore. You've become important to me. To all of us." Ayanna turned to him, her eyes calm and understanding. "Thomas," she said gently, "I care about you too, but we have to move carefully. The girls are young and their feelings are pure. If we rush, it could hurt them or us. We can take our time, continue to build trust, and see where this leads. True family is created patiently, with love and understanding." Thomas nodded, feeling a mixture of relief and hope. Her words were wise, measured, and exactly what he needed to hear. He realized that the bond they were building was not about speed, but depth. It was about understanding each other, facing fears together, and nurturing the kind of love that could withstand challenges and grow over time. The weeks that followed were filled with small, meaningful moments. Ayanna helped Thomas teach the girls to ride bikes without training wheels, celebrated small victories in school, and even guided them in planting a small garden in the backyard. Each activity brought them closer, not just as friends but as a unit, a family in the making. Thomas began to see the subtle changes in his daughters. Emma was more confident in her decisions. Lily was kinder and more willing to share, and both of them seemed to glow with a sense of security that only genuine care could provide. One rainy afternoon, as they all sat inside watching the rain fall, Emma turned to Thomas and Ayanna with a determined expression. "We want to stay like this forever," she said softly. "We want you, Ayanna, to be part of our family, no matter what." Lily nodded, holding her sister's hand. Thomas felt a surge of emotion, realizing that his daughters had already made their choice in their hearts. They had found someone they trusted, admired, and loved. Ayanna smiled, a gentle, almost shy smile. "I am honored," she said, and I care about all of you deeply. Let us continue to spend time together, learn from each other, and grow. If the future allows, then we will see what path it leads us on. For now, let us cherish what we have." Thomas watched the rain outside the window, feeling a quiet certainty in his heart. The journey was not over, and there would be challenges ahead, but for the first time in a long time, he felt that the possibility of a true, loving family was real. Gianna had brought not just joy, but hope and stability, and his daughters had found in her a motherly figure they could trust completely. In those moments, Thomas understood something important. Family was not only about blood or tradition. It was about love, respect, and the courage to open your heart to someone who truly cares. And in Ayana, they had found someone who embodied all of those qualities. Slowly, naturally, and beautifully, their little family was beginning to take shape, one smile, one hug, and one shared moment at a time. The days grew warmer as spring settled over the town, and with the change in season, Thomas could feel the shift in his own heart. The small family he had begun to imagine was no longer just a hope or a dream. It was taking shape in everyday life. Gianna's visits had become a constant, a rhythm that everyone in the household depended on. She helped with schoolwork, played games with the girls, and even shared stories about her childhood and culture that fascinated Emma and Lily. Thomas watched these moments quietly, feeling a sense of peace he had not known for years. One bright morning, Thomas suggested a picnic in the countryside, a place where the girls could run freely and Ayana could teach them about plants, animals, and the natural world. They packed sandwiches, fresh fruit, and lemonade, and set off with laughter trailing behind them. On the way, Lily tugged at Ayana's hand. "We're so lucky to have you," she said, her small voice full of sincerity. Emma nodded in agreement, smiling shyly. Ayana's eyes softened. "And I am lucky to know you both," she replied. "You've taught me as much as I've taught you, and I cherish every moment we spend together." At the picnic, the girls ran ahead, chasing butterflies and exploring the fields. Thomas and Ayana followed more slowly, talking quietly. The conversation eventually turned personal, and Thomas found himself sharing thoughts he had kept inside for months. "I never imagined feeling this way again," he said softly. "After losing my wife, I thought I could never care for someone like this. But you've changed everything, Ayana. You've brought joy to my daughters and to me as well." Ayana listened carefully, her eyes gentle and understanding. "Thomas," she said, "it's natural to feel scared after loss. But love isn't about rushing. It's about trust, patience, and shared moments. I care about you and the girls, but we must continue to let our bond grow naturally. When the time is right, it will become clear what path to take." Thomas nodded, feeling both relief and hope. She spoke with the kind of wisdom that made him trust her completely. The afternoon passed in laughter and exploration. Emma and Lily discovered a small stream, and with Ayana's guidance, they learned how to make tiny boats out of leaves and twigs. Thomas watched as the girls laughed and cheered each other on, feeling a sense of completeness he hadn't known he missed so dearly. Ayana crouched beside them, helping Lily balance her boat and showing Emma how to use a small stick to guide hers along the water. Thomas realized once again how naturally she had become part of their lives, not by force or obligation, but simply by being herself. Over the next few weeks, their bond continued to grow. Thomas noticed how effortlessly Ayana connected with his daughters, how she respected their personalities, and how they, in turn, respected her. Emma began sharing her thoughts and feelings more openly, trusting Ayana to listen and advise without judgment. Lily, once shy and hesitant, now confidently expressed herself, knowing that she was valued and understood. Thomas felt a quiet pride and gratitude, recognizing that his daughters had found not just a mentor or friend in Ayana, but a motherly presence they could rely on. One evening, after a long day filled with laughter and play, Thomas found himself alone with Ayana in the living room. The girls had gone to bed, exhausted but happy, leaving the two adults in a rare moment of quiet. Thomas looked at her, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Iana," he began, "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our family. I see how happy the girls are, how they trust you, how they love having you around. And I know I feel the same way. I don't want to rush you or make you uncomfortable, but I want us to be a family together, all of us." Iana's eyes softened, and she reached out to place her hand over his. "Thomas," she said gently, "I've felt the same way for some time. I care for you and the girls deeply. But families are built carefully, one day at a time. We need to be sure, for our sake and for the girls, that what we have is real and lasting." Thomas nodded, understanding her words. He knew that rushing could ruin everything they had built. This was about patience, love, and trust, qualities that had already started to define their growing family. The following week, Thomas decided to take a step forward. He invited Iana to a small family dinner at their home. He decorated the table with flowers, prepared a few dishes, and made sure the atmosphere was warm and inviting. The girls helped enthusiastically, setting the table and adding handmade decorations. When Iana arrived, she smiled at the sight of everyone working together, and the girls ran to hug her. That evening, as they ate together, there was laughter, shared stories, and a sense of unity that filled the room with warmth. Thomas felt a deep sense of contentment. A few weeks later, Thomas took another quiet step. He suggested that Iana join them for a weekend getaway to a small cabin by the lake. It was a place where they could spend uninterrupted time together, away from the routine of daily life. Iana agreed, and the girls were overjoyed. During the trip, they fished, explored the woods, and sat around the fire at night, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories. The closeness of these moments cemented their bond. Thomas saw clearly that Iana had become an essential part of their lives, someone they could trust, rely on, and love. One evening, as the family sat by the fire, Emma and Lily snuggled close to Iana, their faces glowing in the warm light. "Iana," Emma said softly, "we want you to be our mother. We don't mean just for fun. We really mean it. We love you, and we want you to stay with us forever." Lily nodded, holding her sister's hand tightly. Thomas felt a surge of emotion, tears welling in his eyes. The girls' words were innocent but filled with honesty and hope. Iana looked at the girls, her eyes misty, and then turned to Thomas. "I am honored," she said softly, "and I care about all of you deeply. We have spent so much time together, and I have come to love this family as my own. If the time is right and we continue to grow together, I would be proud to take on this role. But it must be natural, and it must be with everyone's heart fully ready." Thomas took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from his chest. "We're ready," he said simply. "We all are. We love you, Iana, and we want to be a family together." Iana smiled, tears shining in her eyes, and nodded. "Then let's continue, one day at a time. Let us cherish these moments and let our love guide us." The months that followed were filled with small, meaningful routines. Iana moved in gradually, taking a corner of the house and making it her own. She helped with school, guided the girls in their hobbies, and shared in the household responsibilities. Thomas and Iana worked together to create a home that was balanced, warm, and filled with laughter. The girls thrived in this environment, their smiles brighter, their confidence stronger, and their hearts full of love. One Sunday afternoon, as they sat together in the garden, Thomas reflected on how far they had come. From the first encounter at the fair to this moment of peace and belonging, life had taken them on a journey they could never have planned. The girls ran around, chasing butterflies and giggling, while Iana tended to the flowers and vegetables. Thomas watched them, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. Love, patience, and trust had brought them together, creating a family that was strong, resilient, and full of joy. That evening, after dinner, Thomas held Iana's hand and looked into her eyes. "Thank you," he said softly, for being patient, for loving the girls, and for being part of our lives. You've given us something we lost and something I never thought we could have again, hope and happiness." Iana smiled, squeezing his hand gently. "And thank you," she said, "for trusting me, for letting me in, and for showing me the beauty of this family. We have built something precious, and it will only grow stronger with time." From that day forward, they truly became a family. Emma and Lily had the motherly love they had wished for. Thomas had a partner who respected and cared for them all. And Iana found a home filled with warmth, laughter, and trust. They faced challenges, of course, small disagreements, differences of opinion, and the adjustments that come with blending lives. But they always returned to the foundation of love and patience they had built together. Years later, looking back, Thomas often thought about that moment at the fair when his daughters had innocently expressed their wish. "Pick anything you want," he had said, and they had chosen not toys or treats, but someone extraordinary to bring love back into their lives. That single wish had changed everything. It had given them a future full of hope, a family built on trust and care, and a home where laughter and love were abundant. Through it all, Thomas realized that family was more than blood or tradition. It was the courage to open hearts, the patience to grow together, and the willingness to love without conditions. And in Iana, he had found all of that and more. Together, they created a life that was ordinary in the best way possible. A life filled with moments of joy, love, and connection that no loss could ever take away.